and feelings mutual. So thank you all for coming. I appreciate it very much. It's always a bit nerve-wracking. You go out of town and 4 people come because they got the wrong night. Let me start with a story. And not whenever, but frequently when I speak on anything related to parenting, I'm cognizant there's like 2 disclaimers that I feel need to be just pointed out before we start. So there's a fabulous story, the Chavetz Chaim. Chavetz Chaim was, he lost his wife, he remarried, he was late in life with younger children. And it seems, as I read the story, he was walking together with his famed Talmud, the Moshe Schneider. They started Bracha. And the Chavetz Chaim reflected to Moshe that I'm coming to the end of my life. I have younger children. So who's going to be mechanech my children for me after I'm gone? Who's going to take care of them? So Moshe wisely said nothing and waited. And the Chavetz Chaim said something fascinating. He said to him, the truth is, it's not a problem. Because Hatzlacha with our children is 100% siyata d'shmaya. These are the Chavetz Chaim. That's what he said. So he paused, and he said, Ramosha, you probably have a question. And he did have the question. And he said, this was the question. If Hatzlacha with our children is 100% siyata d'shmaya, then how can we work so hard? I mean, our whole family life, our focus, our attention, our worry, our daiga is all about our children. We're constantly worried. We read books, we go to workshops and lectures, even now, right before Yom Tov. And we're busy worrying about our kids and trying to take care of our kids. If it's all siyata d'shmaya, sof, so why are we working so hard? Why do we put so much effort in? Chavetz Chaim said something amazing. So he said, the reason we work so hard is for ourselves, so that when we come one day, when we pass on to the next world, we need to be able to go and say, I did the best I could. I tried. I read books. I went to workshops. I went to presentations. I asked people. I asked experts. I did everything I could. But ultimately, the Hatzlacha is siyata d'shmaya. Why is this important? Because you can walk home. I hope I'm going to say something useful. I really do. But let's say I do say something useful. And some of you feel, I can't do that. That's over my head. That's not possible given my family, my circumstance, my situation. For example, I frequently talk about the obligation of husband and wife. We relate to each other and talk to each other. And then in the audience are people in single families who don't have that opportunity. There's frequently, I notice, because people tell me, they go home after a drasha, after a lecture, and they feel somehow that was over my head, I wasn't able to do it, it doesn't fit for me, somehow I just can't, and I feel it's such a failure. So what Chavetz Chaim is saying, which is so special, is the exact opposite. We simply have to do our best. We have to try as hard as we can. We have to learn, seek advice, seek answer, think about what we're doing in order to try and do the best for our kids. While at the same time we understand the absolute outcome, there are just too many details. There are too many possibilities of what can happen, as I will play out tonight, that we absolutely have to rely with tefillah and daven, tzeitilin, and rely on siyata d'shmaya and move with it, as the Chavetz Chaim said, that we understand I'm just trying to do the best I can. So please, I don't want anyone walking home super often. Just take the best you can out of it. And so we should all have siyata d'shmaya. By the way, sometimes I have a hard time speaking English. When it happens, just wave. forgive me, if I don't translate something and it slips out, you're not sure what I said, and it's important, trust me, wait, I'm fine. I'll be fine with it. And I'll correct myself. I apologize. It just happens. I can't help it. So what is Yom Tov? Yom Tov is a very challenging time. For every person, Yom Tov is meant to be the Yom Tov, uplifting, exciting, fresh start, a new leaf. The truth is, it brings with it, the days of awe are meant to be, as Rabbi Shimon said, meant to be awesome. They're meant to be awesome days where we put kindness in and bring ourselves close to Eibishter again, close to Hashem. These are very, very special times for us. At the same time, they are incredibly stressful. Without any question, for every single one of us, they are very, very stressful times. They're stressful, practically speaking. And we got up this morning, 5 o'clock for sleepless. Same thing here, early. We got up early for sleepless every day. The whole clock is thrown off with sleepless and long tefillahs. And there's all the davening we have to, and then the students, and the preparing for the students, the meals, and the cleanup of the students. I mean, it is a very stressful period of time for all of us. We want it to be uplifting. And the truth is, we're all faced with enormous stress at the same time. And then there's the money-related stress. It costs a lot of money. It costs for the food, the amount of food we eat. Maybe the gym afterwards, lose all the weight. It's also expensive. The mitzvahs themselves, the sukkah and the dalabinim and all the other things that we're busy doing, turns out that this is a very, very stressful period of time as well. And we have to be cognizant. That's not a personal thing for any individual. We are all very stressed out going into this tekufa, and we need to be aware of that so that we can modify ourselves to understand, what do I do with that stress? And why would Hashem even create that stress in the first place? There's nothing that happens to us in the course of our lives that HaKadosh Baruch Hu brings present to us that's not of value. Everything is of value to us. And in a certain way, I'd like to suggest that we're going to think about this stress through the night and think, how is that of a value to me? And how's that of value to my children? How can I bring that as a value to my home? Because it's a fact, we are stressed out. So let's not think of it as in the way, but let's think of it as something that we're going to utilize and understand how to use it properly. And then, of course, the stress of the kids. Let's be honest. Kids are off school, they're home, they're bored, they're always bored and hungry. Hungry at the wrong time. And it goes between boredom and hunger all day long. And they drive us mad. Let's be honest. The stress, the children, what we said at the beginning, all we want in our homes is to bring up wonderful children. That's our greatest focus of our lives, that we should bring up healthy, wonderful children. And here we see them with our stress and their stress on top of it, that Yom Tov presents us a very challenging time. And we need to think through, how do we approach it, relate to it, and redefine it in our minds, so that instead of being scared of it, let's harness the energy of all that stress to do something amazing with our children, with our homes. That's really the goal or the focus of what I'd like to share tonight. So there's actually 3 areas I'm going to talk about. One is, what is our role as a parent? What is my role as a Jewish parent? What am I meant to be doing? Let's re-clarify that so I understand what I'm meant to be doing over this period, this tekufa. Second one is going to be, we're going to focus on, let's have a reset of how we understand children. We cannot just go into it and just hope for the best. But we need to, like everything else we do in this tekufa, this period of the year, where we rethink things, we also have to rethink, how do I relate to my children? How do I understand my children, bringing up kids? How do I understand their struggles, their issues? And how do I understand that from the perspective of Hashem? How does that work? And then we're going to bring it together. Hopefully, the third part will be some practical advice, guidance for what we're actually going to do with our kids. It's going to be helpful for all of us, and so that we can all have the optimum experience. So let's start with a story. And this story, it's a well-known story. I personally like the story because there's so much relevance we can pull out of this story. And it's the famous story, I wrote about it in the book, the story with the Baba of a Rebbe, Shlomo Halberstam, saying Sadi the Brocha. Famous story where one day he was walking, this is after the Holocaust, and he was walking to shul one time with his son. And on the way to shul, he passed by a Yid on Shabbos sitting there smoking. And he stopped, the Rebbe stopped, and he saw this man smoking. And he turned to him and he said, maybe you want to come to our shul with us? Maybe you'll come and daven with us? And he declined. He said, no, it's not for me. I'm done with that. I'm finished with that. And he continued smoking. And they left and wished him for Shabbos and left. There are variations on this story, by the way. It doesn't really matter. The essence of the story is what's important. So then the next Shabbos, they come by, and there he is sitting there again and smoking. He points out, they ask him again, they stop for Shabbos, would you care to join us? Come to our shul, come daven with us. A Mechal Shabbos, a person who's not keeping Shabbos in public. And the Rebbe asked him, please come with us. And he said he was once 1,000 in Europe. He said, come be 1,000. Wonderful, we need 1,000. Maybe you could be 1,000. And he declined. And this went on week after week of him declining, as they saw him many times. The Rebbe's son, turned to him. And he said something so profound. He said to him, Tati, he said, he's Mechal Shabbos V'Hesed. He's not keeping Shabbos. We should have him come to our shul, our basic medrash. He's going to be the chazan. The person is not keeping Shabbos. And the Rebbe said to himself that for us, it has to stay with us internally. We have to live it. Because the Rebbe told him, I don't see a Yid smoking. I see the Nazis smoking. Machshava. I see Hitler smoking. Machshava. I don't see a Yid smoking. I see a real Yid. That's not the person who's smoking. There's something so incredibly profound. After some weeks, eventually, it seems that the men agreed, and he came to their shul, and he became the chazan in their shul. And he davened in public, and he became the chazan. Years later, if you fast forward, if you remember the story, those who have heard it, apparently the Rebbe was invited one time to a simcha, I think it was, and he came, and of course there's hundreds of people there, and he didn't know who it was, but it was the grandchildren of this man who told him, take a look, these are your grandchildren. These are your grandchildren because you took the time to look deeper. The first step for us as parents, as grandparents, is to look deeper, to look inside our children, in their version of whatever they're doing. Inside that child is a Pintel Yid like any other person, a perfect Shalom, a perfect, wonderful Jew. And we get so wrapped up with the external behavior. We get so upset with whether it's the chutzpah, the defiance, when they don't cooperate with us. We get so lost in trying to fix that we fail to see the panemius of the panemius. We fail to see the real Jew inside and activate and bring out that beautiful Jewish neshama that's inside, because we get lost in the outside, kilu, smoking on the outside, and we get lost. What the Rebbe offered to this Yid was a trauma victim, was traumatized in the war. He was detached from Torah mitzvahs. He was detached from himself. And what the Rebbe in one moment offered him was reattachment, which is really what's the opposite of trauma. What is trauma? Trauma means detached. If you translate the word trauma, it really means disconnect. The person has trauma disconnects from life. They disconnect because life is dangerous, it's threatening. So they disconnect. And what the Rebbe offered in one moment was a way to reconnect. And that's really what we're trying to do with our children. The primary first step with all our children. The first goal is reconnection or connection to us, so that we may take them to the place through their connection to us. through attachment. Some years ago, this word attachment, about some 7 or 8 years ago, I made a decision to sort of start talking about this world, this word in the frum world, because to me it represented everything about what we're trying to do. See, you could darshan, you could give drushes to your kids, you can tell them all sorts of speeches, but if you're not attached, if they're not attached to you, connected to you, if they don't resonate to you, if they don't feel they're connected to you, what point is it? As a matter of fact, all those drushes actually repel. They push them away. They don't draw them close. And somehow we get bigger on the drushes and telling them the rules of what they have to do and how they have to behave and try to perfect their midas at the expense of attachment, of connection. And especially when we're very stressed, especially at a time like this, when we're looking for compliance in our kids, and we get so focused on the compliance, and what we lose is the attachment. The first step for all of us is to rethink how we're going to create a deep attachment with our children. At this time of year, especially, that it's pointless going for compliance if we haven't worked hard enough on attachment. And how do we work on attachment? There's a mitzvah in the Torah, fascinating. There's a mitzvah, everyone knows mitzvah period, right? We're meant to have children, bring them to the world. So actually, this mitzvah of bringing children into the world, the chinuch explains, is actually 2 parts, it's 2 mitzvahs. It's really the technical part of having children, like creating a child and bringing it to the world. And then if you look at Shoshei HaMitzvah, he says there's another part to this mitzvah, it's called the Shevis Yitzhara. The Shevis Yitzhara is a pasuk in Yeshayahu. And the pasuk says, Lo so bara l'Shevis Yitzhara. Hashem did not create the world to be a barren place, but to be a place inhabited by people. He wanted it full of people. So what type of people? What does it mean he wanted the world full of people? There's a few proofs I have. I'm not going to go into it now. It's not the time. Maybe on the Shabbos when I come, I'll prove it. But trust me on this. What it actually means is the following. Hashem wants us to create and fill his world with people, human beings, who are healthy in body and healthy in mind, who are happy, who are capable of self-love and capable of loving others. That is more or less the mitzvah, the Shevis Yisrael. That's what Hashem wants. The ideal picture is to fill the world with people who are healthy in body and mind, happy, capable of self-love, and capable of loving others. That's what Hashem wants. At the same time as we have this mitzvah, we from Yid, right? We're from Jews, right? So we have a mitzvah also of chinuch. We have a mitzvah chinuch. We have to mechanech our children. And really, all our lives, we're doing these 2 things side by side. Side by side, ideally, we're trying to create a human being who is, shall we say, I don't like the word exactly, but sort of psychologically healthy. I'm not sure Hashem would have said it that way, but let's use the modern vernacular. A healthy person, healthy in body and mind, happy, capable of self-love, loving others. At the same time, we have another mitzvah, which is chinuch, which is to teach them how to do mitzvahs, what the mitzvahs are. So we teach them about the Sidayim, we teach them about putting on tzitzis and eating and making brachas, and all the beautiful things that we do as from Jews to try and bring up our children in our Messiah that they should follow in our footsteps. These are the 2 things. Here's the question. And I wonder if anyone has ever thought this question, because if I'm going to ask you a question and I'm going to answer it, and in my humble opinion, if there's nothing else I say tonight, if I would stop here, it would be worth tonight. Sounds a bit grandiose, but I really mean it. If I wouldn't say anything else, just this, it would be worth it for tonight. Here's the question. You're busy doing the Shevis Yitzhara, the mitzvah of bringing up a healthy human being, balanced and healthy, a normal, healthy human being. Same time, you have a mitzvah to install mitzvahs, to teach the mitzvahs. When they're parallel, that's all beautiful, that works fine. Here's the question. What happens when they clash? When they clash, in the attempt or effort to install mitzvahs, it will contradict the ability to bring up a healthy child. The child pushes back. They're resistant. They don't want to comply. You're trying to get them to wash or say brachas or do it. Every parent knows this. You're trying in some way or the other to get them to cooperate with Shabbos and kashrus and life and mitzvahs and brachas and everything else, all the beautiful things we do. And they push back. They're not in the mood. They're just busy. Whatever that is, playing with their, whatever they're playing, they're busy. Right? They're not in the mood and they don't cooperate. And at this moment, every single Jewish parent is faced with a dilemma. I have the installation of mitzvahs. I have a mitzvah called chinuch to install mitzvahs in my child. And at the same time, I've got this mitzvah L'Shem Sisora. Which one takes precedence? My humble opinion, I'm going to tell you the answer. And we can stop now. Everyone goes home and has a happy life. Because the answer is the L'Shem Sisora takes precedence. And we never realized it. We did not sit down and think to ourselves and work it through. That when, I'm saying it very clearly, with a child, when there's a contradiction, you never, ever compromise the development of a healthy person for the sake of forcing them, getting them, compelling them to do a mitzvah. As a matter of fact, that would be absolutely contradictory to Ruach HaTorah. That would be the opposite. That would create inside them a level of repulsion towards the mitzvah. It would be the opposite. Whenever there's a contradiction, you as a parent have to have your primary focus. We, when I say you, we, all of us, parents, grandparents, we have to have a primary focus so you keep your eye on the ball. We are going to be faced with a lot of mitzvahs. We're always, from now till after Sukkot, this non-stop mitzvah time. And we want our kids to participate in those mitzvahs. You never compromise the development of a healthy human being for the sake of a mitzvah. That means you let it go. If you don't have the language, if you don't have the ability in a loving, soft way to help them do it and engage the mitzvah, then let it go. Because developing a healthy human being, that healthy human being will be a clay kibble. There'll be a receptor. Is that a good word? Receptacle. That's a good word. Receptacle. Sorry. It's my ears, so I can't help it. I'm sorry. Clay kibble is such a nice word. A receptacle. A beautiful receptacle for mitzvahs. In fact, what's amazing is when you bring up healthy children, where you put the primary focus, now you're doing both all the time, you're always busy with both. But when there's only, I want to be very clear, when there's that moment of contradiction, you always lean in favor of L'Shem Sisora against the mitzvah. You create a receptacle that later on the mitzvahs fall in just beautiful. They just fall in beautiful. I must ask one of the Gedolim, I asked Rabbi Shimon Russell, Shlita, he lived a long life, he's such an amazing person. And I asked him how many times when they were growing up, if they didn't watch Negavas when they were little kids, did Rabbi Yaakov remind him to do it? How many times did you get nudged to do a mitzvah like Negavas, benching? Once. Benched it one time and then left it alone. No forcing, no pressure, no pushing. Just the confidence that if you bring up a healthy child, you're creating a human being in which mitzvahs will. When we're busy in this tkufa, this period of time, we've got so many mitzvahs we're busy with, never let go. Always keep your eye on the ball. The L'Shem Sisora comes first. Developing a healthy person takes precedence if and when there's a contradiction. What's the second way we connect our kids to us? So I talk about this all the time. Sometimes people think I'm a bit of a broken record, but quite honestly, it's also one of those so fundamental issues that if we don't have it clear in your head what we're doing to create the attachment to us, well, then we're not going to do it. It's not going to happen. I saw this first in Dan Siegel's, one of his books, where he's talking about attachment, and he mentioned the 4 S's: safe, secure, seen, and soothed. I don't know if the audience is familiar with. If you're familiar with this, I'll just say it very quickly. This is a whole speech on its own. Maybe when I come back, we'll go very much into detail of what it means. But in short, what it means, safe, secure, seen, and soothed, is the primary focus you have with your children, is to keep in your mind all the time, am I making sure my children are safe? They're safe from any form of abuse or hurt, or being yelled at or put down or criticized, to be destroyed. I keep them safe. Are they secure with us? Are they secure with our love for each other? Are they secure with the way we approach a Yom Tov with joy and happiness? And it's going to be nice. There's not going to be a last minute putting up the sukkah with everyone screaming and yelling and it's hardly up, just 10 minutes to shkia and you still haven't got the sukkah up. No. Are they secure? No, I mean, it happens. I mean, I've seen it, believe me. We got a minimal sukkah. Okay, we got enough for the men to stand and it was up. It's like crazy. Are they secure with our life? And that security plays out in how we approach the Yom Tov. What I'm going to speak about in a moment, how they experience us in this Yom Tov, in this preparation for an enjoyment of Yom Tov. Are they secure that we're having a good time? Are they seen? Do we notice them? Seen is like, probably the most important thing in this world. People tend to have a bunch of kids. I don't know if anyone ever thought about it. You got the kids, you speak to each other. Where's the kids? Let's get the kids in the bar. Let's get the kids in the car. There's this thing called kids. And we just manipulate the kids. It's the kids. It's such a crazy thought because when they grow up and the youngest is 25 and the oldest is who knows what, 40, they are 100% different people. You all know that. You have siblings. They got different people, different families, different rules, different knowledge. We look alike and there's certain similarities, but we're different. Well, that started young. That's actually, again, when I come back, Mr. Shem, I'll give a share on Chanech and Abidai. See, I'm getting pulled into it already. But people darshan, it's unbelievable. I've heard so many drashas from very well-meaning people, and halfway through the drash they say, educate your child according to his derech. And they think that if they say it loud enough, you'll know how to do it. And they're very passionate. You ever seen that? It's like, suddenly you'll go home and know what to do. It absolutely makes no sense. So one time I sat down, I had a whole share on how do you actually do it. What does it mean? Because darko, that vav, al pi darko. One chacham once said to me, one wise guy, he questioned, he said, Chalet al pi darko. He said, no. The vav is talking about the mechanech. He said, Chalet na al pi darko shalahav. You have to be mechanech according to the derech of the father. You can't get more crazy than that. We have to look at our kids and know who they are. I mean, how many of us stand back and really think about the uniqueness of our children? That's seen. We have to see them. I tried very, very hard in my, when I finally upped, the mess we were making of our kids, and I finally upped and decided to try and do it right. Friday night, during the week, I would always, I give them a bracha Friday night. So during the week, I would actually observe them and try and notice something special. So when I give them a bracha, I give them a kiss Friday night, I could whisper in their ears something I noticed that week that was unique about them. That's seen. And by the way, seen can be also, I see you're struggling with this. It doesn't always have to be just a mila. Sometimes a gentle, reflection of something they're struggling with is also a bracha. It's a wonderful bracha for them. But we have to notice our kids. That's seen. And the last one is soothed. Soothed, when they get in trouble in life, kids go through trouble, especially when they cause the trouble to themselves. You tell your little one, he's riding his bike, with the training wheels, and you tell him, when Tati comes, I'll take the wheels off. I'll get to it. And he's begging for the wheels to take. And no, you have to wait till I take the wheels off. And eventually, of course, he takes them off himself, breaks his finger, and you end up in the hospital, and then all you do all the way there is, I told you not to take those wheels. What's the matter with you? No. You soothe him. You put him on your lap and you schmeichel him and you're warm and you're loving to him. You want to tell him about what he did wrong. Wait 2 days. Wait a week. Tell him later, not now. When a child hurts themselves, even if you perceive they brought it on themselves, first you sit them on your lap and you give them, warmth and love, and you soothe them first. And if you do safe, secure, seen, and soothe, you do them all together. You create an amazing attachment between yourself and your child. And why is that important? Well, it's important for a host of reasons. But in reference to what we're discussing here tonight, why is that important? It's important because, lo and behold, it turns out the Messiah's HaTorah, that means the transmission of Torah values to our children, doesn't come through drushes, speeches. Perhaps us as adults, it comes through speeches, especially the rabbis, that are outstanding speeches. That's for us as adults, but not for children. For children, it turns out that the transmission of our values comes through their relationship with us, not what we say, but who we are. Their connection to who we are, to our core values, is how the transmission of our values occurs. It does not occur through our speeches and drushes. My mother, Alea Shalom, was a teacher for 40 years. She taught every type and brand, and I had a brother, Alea Shalom, who worked in the education department in London where we lived. One time he took a look and told us that my mother, Alea Shalom, was ranked number 2 teacher where we lived in London. That's pretty special. I don't know who number 1 was. It must have been off the charts, because my mother was an amazing human being. So I said to my mother one time, Mommy, what do you think made you such an amazing teacher? Number 2 in London, where we live. It's pretty special. Like this, she said, without hesitating. Listen to this. She said, every day I went into the classroom, I tried to present myself as a person that every child would want to be. If they want to be me because they admire me so much, well, then all the knowledge just flows. Everything I have to teach, that they want it because they want to be me. That's attachment on the deepest level. That's attunement to the children in a way where I can connect with them so deeply they want to be me. And it turns out the Messiah's HaTorah, the transmission of all these wonderful things we wish our kids would do and participate in and be involved in their lives, comes through their relationship with us. It doesn't come through our drushes or our speeches. It comes through how we act, how we behave, especially in reference to our attachment with them. If they're attached to us, listen to it this way. If our children, here's how it works actually. There's in Shemayim, we're going to say in Tefillas over the Yom HaNorah, the Av HaRachamon. We're going to talk about the Av HaRachamon, the loving Av HaRachamon, the compassionate Father in Shemayim. How do we get our kids to mature enough that they can relate to a concept of an Av HaRachamon in Shemayim? And the answer is by transference from us. They experience us as the Av HaRachamon. And Av HaRachamon doesn't mean weakness. And that's another drasha. That's another drasha, because the whole liberal, is such a foolish, permissive, foolish way of life. Av HaRachamon doesn't mean being weak. On the contrary, it means being strong, principled, having values. But it's doing it with kindness. It's doing it with love and compassion. Where a child can rely on us, me, the Father, as the Av HaRachamon. And from that experience with me, the attachment to me as Av HaRachamon, and that means, as I said, being disciplined and structured and having rules and values, having principles, having structure, but doing it all with kindness, doing it all with sensitivity, without barking and anger and frustration and disappointment to motivate them. but doing it, especially in this generation, doing it with kindness and love. And when they have that experience with me, they transfer as they matriculate, as they mature, as they become more thoughtful and deep people. They, by osmosis, they absorb it and they transfer it to HaKadosh Baruch Hu, where they see Hashem as the ultimate Ava Rahman, which is really what we want. And that starts with their attachment to us, and us focusing on what is really the priority. This goes a little deeper. So the whole Yom Narayim, what's the point of the Yom Narayim? So we are going through a period now where the focus in Kippur is about tshuva. We start with Mamlech Hashem, Rosh Hashanah. We acknowledge Hashem's kingship. We come to Yom Kippur, we do tshuva, and then we rejoice with simcha. We rejoice together, reattached to Hashem over Sukkot, culminating in Simchas Torah with the joy of attachment, the pleasure of the connection to HaKadosh Baruch Hu. It's all about reconnecting to Hashem. Tshuva means shab, means to go back. In a simple language, we've strayed, we've distanced ourselves from Hashem. And we didn't do it deliberately, obviously not. And the greatest gift, when you think about it, I always think about it, the most incredible gift we haven't got from Hashem is probably the Yom Narayim. Imagine if we wouldn't have a yearly reset, chas v'shalom. Imagine where we would fall to, how far we would stray if we didn't have this yearly reset, where we can think it through and start again, afresh in our lives and our commitment and our relation to Hashem. Tshuva is about shab, it's about going back to the connection to HaKadosh Baruch Hu. And so, as we go through this period, how do we do that? How do we reconnect? If the principle, the ultimate, if you think of all Torah mitzvahs reaching up to a pinnacle and a peak, what would be at the top of all the Torah mitzvahs? Like what's the apex? What's at the pinnacle of that pyramid of all the Torah mitzvahs? Is a mitzvah called Dovka B'Ai, connect to God. The Dovka B'Ai, connect to HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Everything is meant to bring us and sweep us back to a relationship with Hashem. What does that actually mean? To be connected to Hashem. So the Torah Devar explains it's a principle based on Mahurach Mafatarach, of emulating Hashem's midas, Hashem's characteristics, Hashem's qualities, and we analyze and define that's what we're going to do over this period. We're doing it in the slichas, the davening, it's all there through the tefillas, is that we work through, ideally, what are the midas of Hashem? What are his qualities? And we emulate those qualities, bringing godliness into our lives and bringing us into a connection with Hashem. Now think about it. What do we want our kids to witness? What do we want them to see? Here we are at perhaps the most, I don't know, it's arguable, maybe Pesach. I don't know, the ladies are probably time to Pesach is more stressful. I'm not sure, could be. But that's also a great time for the same, we could say the same drasha there. We're going through a tremendously stressful time, we said, on so many different levels. Now just imagine if we were to take this stress and recognize, I want to use this period of my life right now to emulate Hashem's midas, mahurach u'mafatarach. That means working on my midas. That means trying to be kind, sensitive, tuned into each other, husband and wife, to friends, to our neighbors, to our children, be tuned in, dafka at a time that is so tremendously stressful. What do you think is happening to our children if, and no one can deny, the kids don't miss it, there's stress going on, there's busyness in every home with the buying of the food and the preparations and the yontif and the mitzvahs, there's just stress. And in that stress, where this whole period of time is about returning to Hashem, doing tshuva. Imagine if we would harness the power of Mahuracham, of coming close to Hashem through emulating Hashem by working on my midas, on my character. That dafka in this stressful time, what do you think is happening to your children when they witness this? When they witness our kindness, our attunement, our sensitivity, dafka now. Our busyness trying to help each other, trying to be supportive, being patient with each other, and being sensitive and working together as individuals, as families, as a community to build a relationship with Hashem through working on our midas. What do you think we're doing? I'll tell you exactly what we're doing. We're programming the neural pathways in our children, in their heads, neural pathways in their brains, to believe and feel and be programmed that this period of time is an opportunity for growth, is a special simcha. It's a special time when we grow. That's what we're programming in their brains. Someone called me, it doesn't matter who, but someone called me and I heard that they were complaining bitterly about the Yom Tov and all the preparation, how do I do it? And I said, what do you discuss with your friends right now? And basically all they're discussing. So I asked this young lady, where are your children when you're complaining to each other how hard this whole period of time is, and complaining about the food and the preparation and the buying and the cost and the stress and the cleanup and the thing and the preparation and what you're making and everything. When you're complaining about it, where are your children? I think we know. Imagine the difference if in this period of time, when we are trying to emulate Hashem, we're going to prioritize working on our midas, on our character, our personality. I'm going to work on my midas doubly hard, more than I ever normally do. I'm going to work now to make sure my wife or my husband is cared for and thought about. And we're going to be sensitive and tuned in with our neighbors and our friends. We're all going to tune into each other and be supportive to each other. Imagine what we're doing to our children. I will tell you that we're going to do more for that in terms of what we're programming in our children about our Messiah, about our values, about the cheshivas of Yadus, the cheshivas of being a Jew, than any possible drasha could ever teach them. We are actually programming them for success by converting the stressful period of time, this period of time, into one of loving care and support for each other. You're programming your children for the ultimate success in this world and for the joy and connection to the Yom Tovim and to our Messiah. So really, this is the first introduction, the first idea I want to share, that we take advantage of this time of the year. We recognize that our attunement with our children, our kindness to them, again, not compromising. I'm not saying being weak. We have to be firm. But working on our attachment with our children, prioritizing the Shevis Tzara, prioritizing bringing up a healthy child, and most of all, prioritizing the way we respect each other, our own midas, which is so consistent with the entire purpose of this time of year, is to work on our midas, the work on being a healthy person. This is what we're meant to be doing, a godly person. If we can work on that now, then we're actually programming our kids for the most ultimate success in life. It doesn't matter what struggles and issues are going to come in their way. The neural programs we put into them to program them for success. That's our first job. That's the first job we have to do. Okay. Now, the second thought I had is this. We need to reset ourselves on how do we understand our children. How do we understand, Hashem sends children into this world? And how do we understand the gift of these children? Because frankly, when most of us, when our children are born, we all imagine this incredibly perfect human being. We hold it and imagine who this amazing person is going to be. the next grand rabbi, greatest Rebbitzin, a wonderful person asking for Klal Yisrael. We imagine to ourselves. What's the truth? It says Gemara Nida Tesayin Base. The Gemara, the Talmud says the following. It says there's a malach, an angel, in charge. A malach mamuna hal ha'irayim. There's a malach, an angel in charge of pregnancy, and his name is Laila. That's his name, Laila Shmai. Noitel Tiba, he takes a drop of embryonic fluid, and he puts it before Hashem, and he says, Tipa zu matiana. What's it going to be? Chacham or tipish, be smart or stupid. Gibber or chalash, strong or weak. Ashir or ani, rich or poor. Ve'ilu sadik barosha loitama. Is it sadik barosha? That doesn't say. Ki akol b'dei shemayim chutz mi yer shemayim. Everything is b'dei shemayim, except yer shemayim. Sadik barosha, you've got to work on yourself. That's your job in this world. But everything else comes b'dei shemayim. Listen to this. It's so amazing. So absolutely amazing. The Torah is replete, as Rabbi Goldberg said before, it's replete with the most profound psychological insights attuned to the spiritual reality that we live in. And to miss it makes our lives so much harder. But when we embrace it, you can breathe again. Because that's what the Gemara said. What is this? A kol b'dei shemayim chutz mi yer shemayim. Everything is b'dei shemayim, everything, except yer shemayim. Tzadik u'rosh. What does it mean, hakol? Hakol b'dei shemayim. Everything is from shemayim. What does that mean, those words? Everything is from shemayim, except yer shemayim. What does it mean? So Rashi tells us. And Rashi says something so amazing. Because Rashi says, Kol midosav v'karosav shel adam boin le b'gezeres melech. All a person's midas, characteristics, personality, who they are, the person who you are when you come back to this world, the essence, the core of your personality, your character, kol midosav v'kol karosav, and all the events that transpire in the course of your life, that influence your life, the friend next door who drove my kid crazy, right? And the teacher who destroyed my kid in 4th grade. Right? The events that happen to your children. This is Rashi. This is so amazing. The midas, characteristics and personality, the korosov, and the events that happen to your child are all boin leb'gzeres melech. It's all minishmai. That's an amazing statement. It means like this. You have a lazy kid. You decide your kid's lazy. You beg them to come help clean the table, prepare the table, take out the garbage. You ever had that experience? Anyone?
No.
No? Right? Yeah, you wouldn't know what I'm talking about. And the kid says, I'm busy. Leave me alone. I'm busy. Yeah, I'm coming. Remember that one? I'm coming. One of these years, probably. And you're obsessed inside with the thought or feeling this. It's selfish. This kid's so lazy. Drive crazy, just lazy. And you want to throttle them, While they're not looking, you look at your spouse and you're going like mad. Let's think this through. According to Rashi, no one had that experience. Shall I just move on? Okay. So according to Rashi, this is Rashi. And he cites the Medrash. Kol midosav v'karosav boin leb'gzeres melech is, let's say you're right. In that moment, you happen to be accurate, and you've decided your kid is lazy. They are they're damaged with laziness. They're an atzlan. That is a factual truth. You could get 10 psychologists who will do a battery of tests, and we will determine, yes, your kid is lazy. It's true. And you can breathe a sigh of relief now. It's official. It's when they don't help you, they're officially lazy. That kid. We got that one? Most homes have one, by the way. Okay. So you go over to your kid and say, what is the matter with you? You're lazy. You know, you're lazy. Now, what should the child say in truth? They should look up at you. Remember, they're 10 years old. And they should look up at you and say, well, yeah. Yeah, that's how God made me. And Rashi says that I got that from God. And frankly, I'm not sure what you're so upset about. And the way I see it personally is I'm lazy and it's your job to help me get out of it. And he's not being very helpful at the moment, the way he's speaking to me. No, just call me all his midas. Kylo, good and bad. Kid is selfish, self-centered, insensitive. You know, they're behaving in a way that drives us frankly crazy. We wonder what's going to be with this kid. It's a chutzpah. By the way, this is the moment where, you know, you want to tell your kid, you know, when I was a kid, let me tell you something. Now, this sentence, if you ever say it, please don't finish it. Let it go. Don't ever finish that sentence. It's a lousy sentence to say to your kids. You know, they say that like every 5 years, a new generation. Well, what's the point? When you were a kid, you're an old fogey. You're an antique. You don't know how to program the microwave clock. They can do it like this. He tells us, the Medrash, the Gemara is telling us something so amazingly profound. And in these three areas, Gibor Chalash, that physical world we live in, I think, and no one says this, but I think it's true. Osher Oni is the environment we live in, and Chacham or Tipish is our internal world. These are the three dimensions, internal, our physical world, and the external world. These three worlds, everything is B'dei Shemayim. Your child, if indeed it turns out they are self-centered or selfish, that's our job to help them with. And it doesn't help them by accusing them of being selfish or self-centered or getting angry when they're not helpful. If indeed it was true, which is what it might have not, they're just being kids. That's kids. But we need to reset in our brains, especially when we come into this stressful time in Yom Narayim, what actually is a kid? A kid is a work in progress. I do not expect of them. Turns out the single best intervention to get a teenager to take a garbage out of the house, shall I give it to you now? This is money back. Okay, this is it. You're going to say, no, it's Kedai tonight for this line. Listen to this carefully, but it has to be authentic. If it's not authentic, it doesn't work. You tell your teenager, I'd really appreciate it if you could take the garbage out, but you don't have to. It's perfectly fine. I'm happy to do it. I'm happy to do it. And it has to be authentic, not manipulative. No, I'll do it. Don't worry, I'll take care of it. No. No, that doesn't work. It is completely, genuinely authentic. I am more than happy to take the garbage in. It will be helpful to me if you could, but if you're busy, because they're always busy, doing nothing, okay? But they're busy, and you acknowledge that, so you don't have to, and it's perfectly fine, and I don't mind doing it myself. Watch what happens when you authentically say that to your kid and walk away. Because what starts happening is your child starts taking out the garbage for you. Why? Because no kid wants to be controlled. No kid ever wants to be told what to do or be controlled. They're just not mature enough for that. Listen, I don't want to be controlled either, but I can work on myself. As my wife says to me, Shimon, empty the garbage, I go like a toddler and empty the garbage. I know my place, you know? That's me working on me. I say, sure, dear, my pleasure. Is anything more I can do? I'm a mature person. Do I want to empty the garbage? No. But I'm mature enough to understand. Child is not. So you take away all the control and simply express, it would be so helpful to me I'd so appreciate it if you would. But if you can't, it's totally fine. You don't need to excuse yourself. It's all good. Same thing with cleaning tables and preparing anything else and any other task. Rashi is telling us the midas, the character of your child, whenever it emerges in this stressful period of time and you start feeling those feelings of those crazy feelings about my kid, if that's true, that should guide us. This is the area I want to help my child with in this world. If this is the way they're behaving, well, it must be that's what Hashem sent them back with. That's the personality Hashem gave them. And that's my Chayv Kadosh, my holy task, is to help my child with it. The first reset for children is to be realistic and honest. Whatever happens to them in the course of their life, and whatever midas and character they have, that's God-given. And as it emerges, is my Chayv Kadosh, my holy task, to help them with it. Instead of being upset about it, I'm actually happy it emerged. And I'm happy they're safe enough to let it emerge, and I will help them process it. That's the first thought. The Chasam Sofer, amazing Chasam Sofer, he was one of the great Gedolei Rabbanim and Poskim of Klal Yisrael. So he quotes a pasuk in Joshua Hesed in the Chasam Sofer. It's a pasuk in Koheles. You know what? Let me just paraphrase it and explain it. It's so beautiful. He says, like the pasuk says in Koheles, "Eila ha'eretz shemalkecha nar v'sarecha b'boker yechelu." Oy vey for a country whose malkecha, whose king is a nar, a child. He became, his father died and became the king, and he was a little kid. Oy vey for a country whose king is a child. The sarecha and the ministers around him, b'boker yechelu, eat breakfast. It's not a literal translation, but it's close. B'boker yechelu, they eat in the morning. Strange process. What's it talking about? So the Chasam Sofer explains something amazing. When a king, a child, the nature of a child is to be childish. These are his words. It is the nature of a child to be childish. You ever heard the word in like Yiddish? You say the word, it's such a nourishkeit. Right? Nourish, you're nourished. What's the word nourish? It comes to the word nar. The nar is like an adolescent, a child. And we say, why are you acting such a nourishkeit? And they should, by all rights, say, because I'm a nar. That's what I do for a living. That is my way. I'm a nar. I mean, it's so strange. We blame them for it. And you can tell an adult that's nourishkeit. That's like a hurtful thing. That's true. But not a child. That's what they're meant to be. Since the Chasam Sofer, it is completely normal for a child to be childish and act childish. And we expect of them to be childish because they're not developed. They're not mature. And they do childish things. Brisker Rav had a fabulous mice of Brisker Rav, the famous Brisker Rav. He had a meeting in Yerushalayim with all the Gedolei Yerushalayim. His son was then a little boy, 2-3 years old, and he's got a long table, and he's at this amazing show. It's an unbelievable story. It's a crazy story. Only Brisker can do this. It's such a Brisker story. Brisker, they're shooters. They're like, they're so clear about things. He said he's in the middle of the meeting, sitting there, the Rav, and there's a long table with Gedolei Rabbanim from Yerushalayim sitting at the table. And his son climbs up on the table, walks down the table. You have to be cringeworthy, right? Wrong, cringeworthy. Imagine they do that during your meal, right? When you got company over. Walks down the table, jumps off, walks around, and climbs back up. And he does this again and again and again. Eventually, one of the Rabbanim turns to him and says, "Rebbe, teach us. There's no, you had nothing mechanechim, you have to teach him." And the Rav said, he's not Megillah Chinuch, he's under 6. There's no Chinuch. He's a child. He's not Chinuch. What are you talking about? He's a kid. It bothers you, it doesn't bother me. It's such a Brisker mind. It's such a classic, brilliant Brisker mind, the story. It's just, I'm not sure I could do it. I'm not such a Brisker, I'm not sure. I'm not sure any of us could do it, but it tells us something. Children are childish. Childish. Nar-ish. Childish. That's what they are. And they're meant to be. And on the contrary, he says in this story, Eretz, I made for a country whose king is a nar, and the ministers were both. This is how he titled it. It's amazing. He says, what's the job of the ministers of the king? It can't be. Shlomo Melech was a nar. He was 14 when he became the king. So it can't be. It's bad for a country whose king is a nar, because Shlomo Melech was 14 and he was a great king for Klal Yisrael. So he says, oy vey goes on the ministers eat breakfast. It's parenthetical. Oy vey is not oy vey the king is a child. In a country where the king is a child, oy vey the ministers eat breakfast. What does it mean? It means like this. What's the job of the ministers if the king becomes a king as a child? He's going to take the scepter and start flying up in the air, like playing within the crown, or be like with the crown. No, it's not cool. You can't do that. You're a king. So what do the ministers do around him? They protect him. They cover up for him. They guide him until he becomes old and mature enough to be a king that everyone respects. In the meantime, they cover up. They make sure he doesn't play with the crown and the scepter and all the rest of it, and jump up and down on the throne. No, you don't do that. The king doesn't do that. They protect him. Listen to this. He says, but what happens if he's the king and every time he does something wrong, they jump in, no, you mustn't do that. And they yell at him every time. No, you don't play with the scepter. Instead of giving him a toy scepter to play with, give him a toy crown. Let him play with that. No, every time he does something wrong, they bark at him and yell at him. This is how he touches the word, in his youth, his early part, morning, the early parts of his life, they eat him up. They criticize him. They constantly knock him. He says, I vey for such a country that has a king who's a child, and the ministers knock him and knock him and knock him and knock him, because he'll never grow up to be a real king, to be able to lead the country. They'll destroy him, they'll dry him out, they'll ruin his spirit. Children have to be children. A child has to be allowed to be. There's thousands of stories of children who were childish and they did those crazy things. I bet you we have a few in this room. I bet you. Who did some, I know we do actually, a few. Some nutty things, I'm one of them. Who did some crazy stuff. Unfortunately, we had parents who looked away. We didn't make a fuss about it. We have to allow the child to be child. Actually, that word, nar, of Hirsch, is a beautiful husband of that word, nar. The word nar means le naher, to shake off. That's what it means, to shake off. The child is born when they're little. We are completely in control of them. Hopefully, by the time they get married, they're completely in control of themselves. They've somehow taken control, and we've pulled back, and they've moved forward. That's the process called le naher, to shake us off. As parents, when we don't have a grip on them, we allow them to emerge to be who they need to be. That's le naher. That's a nar. So this is the second point I want to make. This is a time of stress and expectation of our children. By the way, when am I meant to stop? No, seriously. I'm so sorry. I didn't even ask. I apologize. We're going to. Okay, I'm sorry. If anyone needs to leave. I won't take it personally. At least I'll try not to. Anyway, so this is we need, as we go into this tkufa. First thing I said was we have to work on ourselves, our middles. We have to emulate. We have to act in a way, create the attachment with our kids, want them to emulate us, want them to follow our Masor by the way we act. The second thing we need to do is we need to recalibrate how we look at our children and understand their children. Let's not expect more of them than they can do. Let's understand and let them play, and let them have fun, especially in this generation, by the way. Because there's no question, by the way, again, it's another direction about maturation, but how many have we got so far? Okay, Tishbaz. But there's this unbelievable university research that shows a corollary between age expectancy and maturity. And what they demonstrated is that as we're living longer, maturity is being delayed. And that's for anyone who teaches, they told me, the kindergarten teachers told me one time that when I went to school, I remember distinctly, we were given a hook with a number. First day, put your boots here, put your raincoat there. And that's what you did, first day. I'm told now that till Hanukkah, they're still teaching with colors and animals and songs to try and get the kids to realize this is your hook, not that one, this one. It's like crazy till Hanukkah. And you're gonna have all mitzvah and the whole thing. It's like crazy. It's my hook. We were told the first day that was it. It's your hook. Number 3. Okay. So kids are maturing later. And we have to recalibrate for that for ourselves. So our expectations have no shakers to us, even one generation. Kids are going to be delayed maturity-wise from us. They will do things differently than the way to. So that's the second thing, is after the primary of working on ourselves and understanding attachment, the next thing we have to do is make sure we recalibrate how we look at our kids, what we expect children to be. Children, the thing called children, what is our expectation of children? So we can relax it and not drive ourselves crazy as we feel our kids aren't doing the things we wish they were doing. It's the second thing. Okay, now some practical ideas. I think we're waiting for this, but it'll make sense now. Look, the fact is that in this generation, unfortunately, for right or for wrong, Kadosh Baruch Hu put into the world, that's for sure, right, but he put into the world challenges that probably didn't exist in previous generations, and when I say probably, factually did not exist. When I grew up, there was certainly no internet. There was no computer. The computer didn't exist. When I grew up, it was a world where there was a thing you would remember called clockwork. Remember clockwork? Things clockwork. You wound it up. Clockwork. Today, the kids don't know. Most people here would know what I'm doing if I did this. What would I be doing if I did this? What would I be doing? Turning what? What am I doing? The tape. Who said it? It's a tape, right? You got all right. Remember that? Tape. Well, the kid knows what a tape is. It's like a tape. The penny's dropping. Right? The tape. Right? Watch this again. Tape. Right? You put it in the car. You pull it out, and the whole thing goes wild. Remember those days? Right? And you take the tape. You put a pencil because it's got the edges, and it just fits. Everyone kept a pencil in the tape box, so you can type your tape. No one knows what that is. I mean, the world is called crazy. It's just crazy. And the primary thing I see is, for most children, the reliance on screens to alleviate their boredom. So they're busy with games, tablets, things, and screen-related game things. And they're busy with it, and it gets their attention. Comes a 3-day on of boredom sets in. I urge parents, before Yom Tov, sit down with your kids. Do not wait till Yom Tov. Now, today, tomorrow, not tonight, they're asleep. Everything right. They're dancing and partying in your house right now. Tomorrow, sit down with your kids. You have to sit down with your kids before Yom Tov and create realistic expectations. You have to acknowledge to them so they're not hurt. It's not their fault that the world they live in has screens and games, lots and lots of fun games that never existed. Kids today, I mean, the research is pretty awful about the amount kids read today. We grew up reading. We read and we went out and played ball. The kids barely do that anymore. To just go and play ball. Who takes a ball to the park and kicks it around? It sounds like something Charles Dickens. What is a ball? You kick a ball? What? You mean that you play, soccer, No, we just kick a ball around in the park or frisbee. I mean, who does that? They're glued to all these clever things that get their attention, which are very, very convenient if you want to like subdue them and, just like anesthesia, instead of anesthetic, we give them toys and it keeps them all quiet. This is a major problem when it comes to 3-day old. They can barely get through a Shabbos, forget about 3-day old. And again, it troubles me that we don't recognize this and validate the children and acknowledge it to them 2-3 days before Yom Tov and sit down with them and say to them, Kinderach, we've got Yom Tov coming. We're going to have a wonderful time, it's true. But it's going to be very, very hard for you who can't play your games and use your screens and toys and all the rest of it. These things, it's going to be very, very hard for you. Let's plan for success. Let's talk about it now. And the biggest thing that I think we make an error in is we don't validate the kids enough. We actually give them like a mussar drasha about their dependency on these things, right? We criticize them for their dependency. We get upset with them. You're so glued to it all. Who bought it for them? Who finds it convenient, when we're trying to clean up, that they're playing with it? Hello, us. And then we give them a mussar drasha. It's the exact wrong thing to do to them. It's the exact wrong thing. You have to sit down and validate now before Yom Tov, 2-3 days before, and create realistic expectations. So how are we going to do it? How can I help you? It's going to be hard for you. And when they know that we know it's hard for them, and they complain about it, and we tune into it, they're not manipulated. They don't feel manipulated. They feel understood. And you can quickly move them that way because you've already planned for success. Speak to them now because it's going to be hard for the little ones, especially because kids don't read. They just don't enjoy it so much anymore. Get them books. Be creative with them, games and books and whatever, special things. How are we going to get through this? But validate for them, it's going to be hard. Instead of muscling, about your dependency on this stuff, don't muscle them. Validate them that this is the world you live in, and this stuff exists in the world you live in. And therefore we want to help you. In the same way, we want to plan for success a few days before Yom Tov. What is expectations for davening, depending on the age of the kid? Like how much do we expect you to be there or not be there? Sure. And how much do we expect you to daven? One of my kids was very, very learning to say. So I took a sitter, and with a yellow highlighter, I marked a couple of things in that sitter that said, this year, that's enough. You do that, you're good to go. Beginning and end of a paragraph. And I said, we'll add every year on your birthday, we'll add some more. So over every year on the birthday, what are you going to add, Tom? What are you going to add? And I'll add something more, a little bit more, so the person feels I'm growing up and I'm developing, but it's attuned to the fact that they can't do it. So why would we expect it of them? And I gifted him a sitter. Here's your sitter. This is your sitter you use. Just do the yellow parts. We're good. Shem's going to be very proud of you. We have to plan with them in advance for what are our expectations that are realistic and reasonable for them. What should we expect of them? And what should they expect of themselves? We have to tune into that. There's another thing that bothers me very much.
Can I just ask him about that?
Yeah.
You treat it like a garbage. It would mean a lot to me and make me happy if you came to davening, but you do what's good for you.
It depends on the child. The truth is, this subject is so huge because it depends on the type of kid and which type. There are some, look, let's be honest, I didn't modify this at all for kids who are not interested in doing it. And then the kids who are. I don't like, personally, to guilt children into doing mitzvahs. I don't like to imply something that would mean so much to me if you would. There's something I think inherently unhealthy in do it for me, Schaefer. It's like rewarding kids. You know what you're saying to the kid? It's like giving a prize. I have this fight with the schools all the time about it, about reward rewarding kids for going to davening. What are you saying to the kids? I mean, it's really crazy, but think about it. We all know you hate davening, and davening is a horrible thing. So how much money can I use to get you to do it? It reinforces that they know that I know that they know that I know they know it's horrible. It's crazy. And it's not spoken about, but that's how it feels. I know it gets done. All my career, my practice, kids with religious trauma have been telling me these things all the time. It's like we all knew it was horrible. The more horrible it is, the more they can ask you. See, people say, just this is for you. People say, Tom Chacham. So people say, but the Rishonim say, a person becomes his actions. The more you do it, the more you become. So let's bribe him, let's get him doing it, let's just make him do it more and more and more. And then that's what you become, right? That's what they say. And I say, no, not true. Because it says, Adam nifel kfi pulo sav, there's a vav on it. It's his actions, not my actions. If someone chooses, if I choose to lose weight and I get rewarded and I get, special incentives, well, that works to help me because it was my choice of something I want to do. But if someone's going to push me to do it and then reward me, and I don't really want to do it, it actually confirms for me how much I hate this thing. And the only reason I'm doing it is because of the reward. So it really troubles me. I much prefer to be patient. Wait till they grow up. Wait, they'll grow up. You know how they do it? They do it by copying us. They copy us. I watched with my children. They weren't great daveners at all during their early years. I'm not sure they were great at anything during their teenage years. But there it was. We had an interesting journey. But what's amazing to watch, am I right about this? But my son was here. Am I right or wrong? That later on, they daven. And when they daven, it's super serious. It's super genuine. And I never once ever had a conversation ever about how you should daven. I just did it. I wasn't. Am I correct? Is that? But I never told them. I never incentivized them. On the contrary, I told them, no, it's not for you. What I do isn't for you. Don't try to be me. I always told them, don't try to be me. I enjoy that. I enjoy it. You'll see what happens when you grow up. And incredibly, am I right? They daven sincerely. It's amazing to watch. Let's plan for success. Let's talk to them before Yom Tov. Anyone say Advato anymore? People do, right? They like to say Advato. You ever had that agonizing experience when there's no one left but you saying Advato? Like who are you saying it to? It's like, I don't know, the Malachim, thank God. I saw it, the journal of, what was it? One second, do I have it? Let me just, yes. Attention span, the journal, this is a study in 2010, student attention decline, published in the Journal of Chemical Education, entitled, How Long Can Students Pay Attention in Class? And they studied first year undergraduate chemistry students. I don't think anyone does chemistry unless you're a certain type of person who really wants to do chemistry. That's not the nittle clipulosis, right? You really gotta want to do chemistry, yeah? So in this, they published this. The researchers were observing what was the first spike of lack of attention in these first year undergraduate students. And they found that everyone had a first lapse of attention within a minute and the majority within 30 seconds. It's crazy. I can give you the research article. It's crazy. What happens at our table? At most tables, you launch off into your Dvato, and everyone falls asleep. The kids disappear, and you go crazy. Then you have to force them to be there, which is like a nightmare. And usually the mother is going crazy, right? She's going nuts, like leave her alone, It's like, oh no, I gotta see my Dvato because my father, remember my Zaydis. We all sat there. I said, Mr. Zayd. And he said, Dvato. In my house, I watched this happen and I realized this is not working. So I developed the SMV. You know what the SMV is? It's the short, meaningful word. I actually put a lot of effort every Thursday night. I sat and went through the parasha to find a short, meaningful word. You know a short, meaningful word? Under 2 minutes. You got to pack a doozy of a good word based on a pasuk. You don't have to include the New York Times. That's up to the rabbi for the drasha. But for us, it's just a pasuk chumash with preferably a good insight, and you pack it under 2 minutes. Now, if you really do good, what do we have? SMV, a seriously short, meaningful word. And I can do it under 30 seconds sometimes. It depends on the mood of the crowd. But I'll tell you what happens, it's so amazing, is that when you really do, you prepare, and you want to say Torah at the table, you want to say something nice, you should, and there should be something nice, but you do it short and meaningful. The goal is to get conversation. Do you understand? The goal isn't that we're going to teach them a word so they can have a word. That's not the point. The point is we're going to say something, hopefully a little bit interesting and inspirational, that will evoke conversation. That's what we want at our table. My Rebbe, I want to tell you, Rabbi Salman, son of Roch, my Rebbe, he didn't like the parsha sheets on the table. He spoke against them. He didn't want parsha sheets. He felt that too many kids got traumatized for those parsha sheets, for being beheaded publicly, proven. They don't even know the name of the parsha. That's for sure not. Parsha? Do we have parsha? Let's parsha. They're just traumatized. I mean, no problem. Do a parsha, do it privately. Not at the table, you want a short, meaningful word. I'll tell you a story, amazing. I'm going to finish up in a moment. Here we go, fine. This is good, right? We did good. So the key is you don't want to force anyone to be quiet. And when you do a short, meaningful word, most kids can contain themselves for a minute. They can do that. They can listen, especially if it's meaningful. If it's like schmack and meaningful, and it provokes conversation. One year, we were in a house in Israel. We live in Israel, and we had a bunch of boys from one of these struggling yeshivas, and these boys were by us for Shabbos, a whole bunch, and they were by us for Rosh Hashanah. First night Rosh Hashanah, I got through the meal without any incidents, no heaviness. I didn't trigger anyone. No one had a traumatic reaction. It was all very light and fun. I made sure the Hirotzins were all light and funny, and we did a lot of funny. The soda, you do the soda, right? Soda here goes good. The other one? Okay. So we make up all these things, and we had a great time. At the end of the meal, I told these boys, hope you don't mind, but I grew up yeshivish. Is this okay if I say about a short one? And I said, oh gosh, I thought we were having a nice time. Say about there. So I told them, you know what though? We do a special thing here. It's called the SMV, the short, meaningful word. So I'm going to do one in 30 seconds or less. Would that be okay? So they look at each other and say, yeah, we can go for that. 30 seconds. I said, okay, one of you is going to be the timekeeper. You got to watch. Great. You say go, and I'm going to say this for us in 30 seconds or less. They look at each other. What is this rabbi talking about? It sounded so weird, this heavy. So they're all ready, they're going to show me up, And this guy says, go. And I say, nobody's Rosh Hashanah. You're not counting the time here. I'm just telling the context. There's no risk. Ready? Okay, so we do go again. Go. Nobody can go back and create a new beginning, but everyone can start today and create a new ending. Wonderful, Yontif. That was it. The guys went crazy. They were high-fiving. Oh, wow, if I wouldn't have got off the dance, if I heard this is the Torah. This is real Torah. This is what I want to hear. And we sat there an hour and a half after this little SMV talking Torah, concepts, chizuk, inspiration. They were telling me inspirational things. I was telling them from this little SMV. We have to be attuned to the children of our generation. You want to give a drasha, That's very well. You come up here like me, you give a Josh. It's great. But not to the kid. You don't pull out the standard with the kids. You know, SMV time, attention span isn't long enough. Make it attuned. Of course we should say something. But make it attuned to make it geschmack. Or just do a story. A good geschmack story. Leave it with that. I'll leave you with one last thought. So as our kids were growing up, and we were living in Lakewood at the time, and we went through, we had a lot of learning disabled kids, and I didn't understand any of it, I must tell you. We did not understand what we were doing, and my eldest daughter went off when she was 14. Now she's got a chauffeur, married, kids, Canadian. We went through a lot of struggles with our kids. She was 14 and a very defiant place. And one Friday, as she was already in the throes of her struggles, I was called into a certain rabbi in town who gave me the news that, lo and behold, I got another kid off the derech. I couldn't believe it. Another one. I didn't know about. But she was like spotted. You know how this happens? They spot her. And they see her doing something. And they, now it's official, you got another kid off the derech. I promise you, this is about 25 years ago. I came home and I was dead. It was Friday night. I was dead. I had no ruach inside. I felt so tzarachem. I felt so low. I could barely whisper Kiddush. I got through the meal. I don't think I said it right there or anything. And I just was feeling sick. But this is a second one? What is the matter with us? All the bad feelings and fears and embarrassment and shame, it was all inside me. I benched quickly and decided to go up to bed. Left my wife with the kids. They're a lot safer in her hands at that moment than in my hands. And I went upstairs to bed. On the way upstairs, I meet her coming downstairs, going out Friday night to party with her friends, wearing, as I often say, a big day kahuna, maybe Yavin. And she was on the way out. And I was coming upstairs. She had sat there for a while until I triggered her too much. And she couldn't handle being around my morose, miserable personality that night. And I meet her on the stairs, and we looked at each other. And she said something that changed my life forever. She gave me a gift that was so profound, it was so penetrating and painful, that it changed my life forever. Because on the way we stopped and passed on a landing, and she looked at me and she said these words, "Doesn't look like your Judaism is working very well for you, is it?" And she left the house. And she killed me in that moment, because the truth of what she said was so profound. I'd lost my way because of the kids. I'd lost my connection. I didn't see this was all from Hashem, and it's going to take me to a place I never imagined I'd get to. It took for me simcha. And I made a pledge to myself that night that I'm going to enjoy my Yiddishkeit. Whatever's happening around me, I'm going to enjoy being a Jew. I'm going to be besimcha with my Yiddishkeit. Even if the kids aren't cooperating, even if they're challenging me, even if I'm alone at that table saying the Dvar Torah to the Malachim, as I sang, believe me, countless times, we have 8 children, and nevertheless, countless times I sang to myself in that room, and sang Zmiris, Heilige Zmiris, to myself, with joy and simcha out loud, because everyone had left the table. And I reclaimed, thanks to her, my joy, recognized that called the Avid Rahman, the Tab of it, whatever Hashem offers, that's good, it's all good. But we've got to see that. And I've got to enrich my Yiddishkeit. I've got to be the embodiment of Simcha. It's Zman Simcha Seder we're coming to. If I'm not besimcha, if I let the stress, if I let this overwhelm me and I'm not besimcha, what exactly am I telling my children? And so I decided to commit myself to living like a Jew, regardless of what happens around me. Never let it happen again, but to enjoy being frum, and enjoy my mitzvahs, and enjoy my nisyonos, to enjoy my struggles, to let them take me to be a kinder person, a healthier person, a better person, a more loving person. Let them take me there. And lo and behold, that's exactly what happened. It enriched my life. It led me to being here. It led me to being here. Made me the person I am. So let's reclaim the simcha. Let's make sure that despite what's happening, that our children witness us as the embodiment of simcha. And the Zman Simcha Seinu is not just something we say in our tefillah, but it's how we live, and it's how we rejoice with each other, with the Kadosh Baruch Hu this Yom Tov. I hope this is helpful. Have a good Yom Tov.